Well, welcome back to Chit Chatting with Love Lady, and we're going to continue our conversation about suicide. In the previous videos, we first learned about signs and pretty much how to identify if a person could be contemplating or if they have already contemplated or acted on suicide. Then we learned about how to be aware, things that make us aware of what can lead to suicide. So now we're on the conversation, having a conversation with someone you're worried about. Okay, it's not always easy. I'm the first to say that because, I've worked around situations or those that have felt suicidal or have attempted suicide. And somewhere in our lifetime, we will experience someone that has committed suicide or have attempted suicide. And you'll be surprised on those that have actually did that. So you're saying, okay, so now I know some signs. I'm aware of some things that can lead to suicide. So how do I actually have a conversation with someone that I feel could be suicidal? Okay, so first, you don't want to just anywhere just say, hey, you trying to commit suicide. Or even if they tell you that they want to commit suicide or they just don't feel like they want to be around anymore or feel that worthlessness. I mean, because it is a deep topic and it is a serious situation. Number one, you probably want to start off with, maybe having a conversation with them. And again, you may be saying, how do I do that? Well, depending on the person, depending on their age, you want to take them, I'm not saying like off anywhere, but you do, if it's a grown up, I'm sorry, you may want to either have like a private conversation with them, either at their home, at your home, or maybe take them out for lunch and just discuss it with them, and just pretty much ask that question. Sometimes it's easier to talk to someone that may be feeling feeling vulnerable or feeling low or suicidal. Is just show them or try to let them know you're not trying to embarrass them. You're not trying to make a mockery out of what they're thinking or feeling. You may just want to, just have that conversation in private. And it's so many ways that you can do that. Another thing is do something that both of you guys enjoy together. Whether it's a kid or whether it's an adult, you want to try to lift their spirits. Possible just say you may want to, if it's a mother and daughter or a son and daughter, son and father, parents, put like that, and a child, you may want to, like the father may want to have go and play catch with the son. Matters the age. Or you may, if you're older son or older child, you may want to take them. Maybe it's like bowling or golfing or just to a movie, or maybe just a regular walk in the park and just say, hey, I have something on my mind I want to talk to you about, and let them know, you're not trying to insinuate anything, of course, but you do want to, talk about the subject at hand and just kind of pretty much go with it. If you're not into doing the going for a walk or that type of activity, a simple drive, and just make sure that it's just you and that person in that manner. I know a lot of people say, well, we could do an intervention and we can have all the friends and this and that. Sometimes that person is not going to open up to a group of people. It will be easier for them to open up to one person than 10 people. And again, it is about trust. If they feel like they cannot trust your reasoning for doing it, then again, they're not gonna want to talk to you about it, because who you think is just gonna say, well, yeah, I think I'm gonna kill myself. I think I'm gonna do this. I think I'm gonna do that. It's not gonna be that easy for them to just open up and say yes. Now, in most cases, you do have some cases where that person will actually open up to you. But remember, you have to be, most of the time, a person that they trust. Okay? Because whether they go through with it or not, then you got to think this is going to be something that follows them, because it was a thought process at one point. And they want to make sure that, I'm assuming, if they do open up with you, you're not going to be that person that go and tell the world that, hey, such and such was on the verge of suicide, or they wanted to, because all that would do is push them further in wanting to do it, because now they're embarrassed, that the world knew that they was feeling the way they was feeling. So you have to kind of ease in that conversation, but it's easier to ease in that conversation on a private level, more one-on-one, kind of distracting them from everybody else that may gave them that feeling to want to do that. So we're going to talk about that, like I said, a lot more over the next couple of weeks, because it is important. They do celebrate suicide awareness, and all I can tell you is that it's never a good time to not talk about it, and you can't always say, well, it's not my problem. Well, you have to think it could be your loved one. You could be yourself on the verge of that, and you kind of like riding a fence. And you may need that strong support system that can talk you through whatever you could be feeling. Okay? I personally wouldn't suggest that that's a conversation you have on social media, to try to talk to that person. That is very, in my opinion, is very tacky. Whether it's private messaging or whatever. Now, I'm not going to tell you that not to try to reach out to them. Maybe you reach out to them via a private message and see if you can exchange phone numbers and have that conversation. But as far as just putting out there in a comment or on their page or their social media platform, I don't think that's really a good thing to do, because that kind of stuff open up so many cans of worms. If you're feeling worried about someone asking whether they are thinking, about suicide, I'm being distracted. I'm sorry. I don't think it'll put ideas in their head. But again, if it's like a friend or a loved one, just be respectful of that topic and try to make it, more on a private level than exploiting the situation, because that won't make it any better. So we'll talk about how would you even start that conversation. So hang on. So we're going to jump into like some conversation starters. You may be saying, okay, I can probably do that, as far as getting them by themselves and kind of like talking, because we're used to talking and whatever. Or even if you're not a person that talk with this person all the time, it's always a way that you can kind of strike that conversation up. But remember, you really do need to pull that person, if possible, to the side where they're not in front of other people, because now you're about to ask them something really, really deep and personal. And you cannot mix up a person being just sad than suicidal. Now, most of the time, if a person is, you're going to see those warning signs that we talked about. Sometimes you won't even see those warning signs. Sometimes it's just something sporadically that they thought about and did it or attempted. Okay, so, but remember to try to pull them to the side if you can, and give them some sense of privacy. So you may start off with something simple like, well, how are you? You know, if that's a conversation you guys normally have, you know, they probably just ease off and just say, hey, I'm good. Sometimes good is not really good, but sometimes good is just simply good. So just be careful if they're just being very blunt, short, not really kind of like just spilling it, or whatever, or overflowing with everything going on. But you have some people that are communicators. So if you ask them how they're doing, they might say, I'm fine. I just been having a headache. They may go like that, something like that. Or if you know that it's really more than that's going on, or you feel like it's more than that going on, you may ask them how they're doing, and they may say, I'm good. And you may say, well, that's good, but how are you really doing? And you can probably go in and start saying, I seen that you kind of been a little down, or you haven't really been yourself. Do you want to talk about something? That's what I'm here for, blase, blase. And hopefully that conversation opens up more. I don't know if it's the best thing to just straight off say, well, hey, I heard you was, contemplating suicide. Because again, it's still about how you approach the situation. Okay. You may even say, hey, you don't really seem like yourself. You kind of been a little distant from everyone. You've been more sad or withdrawn, or you're not yourself. And hopefully, again, that they will open up, and you want to just assure them it's okay to talk to you about it, and you have to make sure that you are that friend that's going to keep it behind closed doors, because this conversation is touchy feely. Some people will just, if it's nothing serious, they're going to just spill it out. You have some people that they're not talkers, and they're really, really private, even if they're contemplating something like that. So you have to really be very sensitive about that conversation, but not be afraid to have it. Okay. Also, you could probably go through it, after how you doing, and they say they good. You could be saying, well, that's good because I had a terrible week. How was your week? And they might elaborate. It started off good, but I have this one person that constantly, try to harass me or whatever could be leading up to them feeling the way they feel. So again, you don't want them to think it's only them that's in a sucky mood, because you probably had a bad day or a bad week too. Let them know we all have those bad times. So, hopefully that's something that will strike them to open up a little bit more. Again, remember, these are conversation starters, some examples, things that you can use as far as, as an approach. Again, when it's a kid, it may be something different. It could be still similar. I remember years ago, my kids would come home, or I come home from work, and I would rant and rage because why is your room dirty, or why is this here this, or why is that there? But, a light bulb went off in my head to say, you come straight in the house fussing. Not one time have you said, how was your day? And sometimes that could be what keeps them sad or mad or scared or nervous. Make sure that you're really being sensitive, and you're not only being thoughtful about yourself, thinking of yourself in this manner. Never make it solely about you, because at this moment it's not solely about you. It's good to, let them know you can relate to them, but make sure you're allowing them to speak on what could or could not be wrong. maybe it's not suicide. Maybe the signs look like, okay, this person is doing things that a suicidal person would normally do. But it could just be a low moment that they just feel like, man, I done gained a few pounds. I'm just in a sucky mood. I really don't want to do nothing. And it doesn't have to be the thought of suicide. But you still have to try to have that conversation because you don't know. Okay. Again, it goes back to another thing. Like I said, it goes back to, how I said I would address my children. This is when it was way much younger. It could be your spouse. You don't know what kind of day your spouse have. And the first thing you do is when they come home and you're yakking or you arguing about something that's so petty, you don't realize that person probably had a really bad day at work. That boss may have put their back against the wall to where they kind of like, you either do it or you're going to get fired. You don't know. Okay. They probably was just told that their salary was getting cut. It's either your salary get cut or you lose your job, you get your pink slip. And that could put a person in a bad mood because they're thinking, if I lose my job, then I'm not going to be able to provide for my family. And most men do not want to be in a position where they can't provide for their family, and they're probably trying to battle out, okay, I'm finna get my hours cut or my salary cut. So now, instead of having one job, I have to think about how I'm going to get another job. And then that's going to take me away from my family. It's a whole lot of things can put a person in that mood and think, no matter what I do, I'm never going to add up to the financial status I want to be at in order to take care of my family. So that could put a person, like I said, in a bad, headspace. When you're talking about, opening up that floor, one thing I've learned, you do have to be a good listener. And I myself, I work on that all the time to make sure I'm really listening to people. And it's not all the way, I don't always have to be the talker. So remember, this person is the one that's going through it. Yes, sometimes you have to pull it out of them. But remember, don't pull too hard or they will clam up and they'll stop talking. So you don't want that. Make sure you're asking direct questions. You don't always have to beat around the bush. Are you having thoughts about suicide? Be prepared, that person may answer yes. What if they say yes? What are you going to do? You can't freak out. Then listen, without any judgment and just say, I'm here, talk to me about it. You may ask, what made you feel that way, or whatever. Or how long have you been, thinking about it or whatever. You want to allow them to explain to you so you can find the right words to say or encouragement to say. So those are two main, things that you can say to them. You already asking questions, but these are things that you could just really get direct with them and say. Another thing is make sure the person know you are there for them. I just said that. Use nonverbal cues like eye contact. When they're talking to you, don't be like, if they feel like you're not paying them any attention, then they're going to be like, see, you're not even listening to me. Because it is a serious topic. You really ask them something deep down and personal. And they need to know that you're really genuinely, listening to them. Let the person know a lot of people thinks about suicide. And it's okay, to talk about those feelings. Because in so many ways, people, have an idea that certain things you just don't talk about. And that's the wrong thing. Some people, for whatever reason, have trained society that those things you keep hush-hush. But you have to assure that person that it's okay to talk to me about it. Express it. If you have to cry, if you have to shout, if you have to throw something, let them know it is okay to talk about it. Try to offer hope and suggestions. that the people can find ways through this tough time. I mean, you have many, many hotlines. And, one of the ones that I've been, doing a lot of research with, because I too want to make sure that I know how to help someone that is in a headspace. And that number, that is for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That number is 1-800-273-8255. I cannot express that enough. That's just one of many numbers, that you could pass along to someone that may or may not need it, but might be able to share it themselves with someone. You can refer them back to my videos to let them know these are some things to help them, go through that process of helping someone else or even helping themselves. Reassure your friend love, and that you're here to listen and support them. Again, it goes back to no one want to feel like you're fake caring. That's why I was saying, make sure you're taking them away from the crowd, because you want them to know that you're giving them your undivided attention and that you're very sincere about, talking to them and finding out how they're feeling. And hopefully you can motivate them and encourage them that suicide is not the way to go. Be prepared to listen even if it's hard to hear. A lot of people don't recognize signs until it's too late, or they don't ask the questions because they're scared to hear that person, yes, feels suicidal or want to in their life. And to some people, that's very hard. So we're going to move on and we're going to keep on talking about this. So just stay tuned. So find out if they made a plan. It's very important. People who have made a plan or not, they're at more risk, meaning they've already planned it out. This is how I'm going to do it. This is how I feel like I want to go. It may be hard to hear if they answer that question, but it's a necessary ear that you need to give so you can prepare your prevention on how to maybe help them. It may be a little nerve-wracking for some people, but if you really genuinely care about this person, you will find a way to be that support system or lead them in the right direction so they do not act on that notion of suicide. People who have made plans, like I said, they're more at risk. It's like, have you thought about how you would kill yourself? And I know it may seem stupid because they already told you they was thinking about it, but it may help the person that's trying to prevent it know that answer to that question. Have you thought about when you will kill yourself? Have you taken any steps to getting things you would need to carry out your plan? And again, I know some people if they was going to kill themselves, why are they going to tell me all these details? Sometimes people that plans or tell you that, some people really don't want to kill themselves, but they feel like they have no choice or they feel like no one cares. So if they tell you, it's kind of like they want you to save them, possible, or they could be faking you out and just telling you the plan, telling you what you want to hear, and they really have a whole nother thought. But the thing of it is, anytime a person comes to you and say that that's what they've been feeling, even if you bring up the conversation and they kind of let you know, yes, I've been wanting to kill myself, this is how I felt like I would do it or want to do it, you want to kind of look out for that kind of stuff as well and kind of find out how you can prevent that from happening. But you just have to, again, like I say, be a support system and try your best not to leave that person alone. Because when they're already feeling low, being alone is not something that they need to be. Make sure that when you're talking to them about it, Make sure you're using the right words. Dead by suicide, died by suicide, suicide in his or her life, took his own life or her life, attempted, to end his or her life. I mean, it do make a difference on how you say it. And we're going to talk about some things on what not to say. So we'll be right back after this, and we'll talk about the things you should not say. So we're going to close this video out by saying these are some things you should not be saying. You shouldn't say while you're talking to a person that's in this headspace. Don't try to talk them out of the suicide by reminding them what they got going on, how much their family would be hurt. Because you know what? I'm sorry, my allergies. You don't know what if their family is part of the problem. So you got to be really, really careful on what you say. Make sure you're making it about them and not about how someone else will feel, because this is about how they feel right now. Don't try to fix the problems. Just listen, with empathy and without judgment. We talked about that a few minutes ago. Don't judge them. You can't fix it, by saying, oh, I wouldn't do nothing like that, or I don't think you should be thinking like that. No, you should be listening, because something got them in that space. And right now, they need someone to listen to them, really hear them out. Even if they don't understand how they're feeling, hear them out. Okay? And last but not least, don't dismiss their situation as, oh, they're just trying to get attention. Because that's not always the case either. You got to take them seriously, because if they feel like that's something that they feel you're trying to tell them is that, oh, you're just trying to get attention because you made a mistake, or you trying to get attention from everybody, you want a pity party. That's not a good way to go, because all that's going to do is make them want to do it more. So, we're talking about this again because it's really, really necessary, guys. And a lot of people may not understand, why I chose to go this direction for this topic, or this series. It's because it is necessary. I see so many people, whether it's a youngster, whether it's a teenager, whether it's a grown person. I have seen this happening, or this type of mind space, and it bothers me, because I feel like no one should feel that way. But I can't just say they shouldn't feel sad or anything like that, but I don't think a person should ever be put in a position where they want to end their life. But you may also say, well, don't you have a gardening channel? I do. And believe it or not, all of that plays into it. We'll get to that part, later down in the series. But I will say that just take your person of interest, whether it's your friend, whether it's your family member, your coworker, take them seriously and really think about the ways that you can help them, overcome this situation. And if it's something that's too much for you, direct them to the 1-800-273-8255 hotline, and that's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number. Again, it's so many other numbers out there, so many other organizations out there, but we too should hold ourselves accountable for our actions that could possibly lead someone to feeling that way. We talked about some things that can get a person to feel that way. You can go back to the video prior to this one. I will link it up in the iCard. And I will also make sure that I have a playlist just for this, because you may want to share the whole playlist with someone that could be going through this and just may need this. And if it was me, there with them, I would say personally, I love you. whether we know each other or not, I care about your safety and your life, because your life do matter, you know. And I hope that that person that may or may not be going through this, or know someone that's going through this here, use that number. If you know someone that is going through this here, or you going through this here, use the number to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And again, one last time, that number is 1-800-273-8255. Have a wonderful day. And we'll be back on the next video on how to be prepared. Have a great day. Please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you can always know when Love Lady Gardening Projects is putting up a new video. Have a great day.